Coach will give it off in state and they'll take the question.
Yeah, a couple updates. Unfortunately, at some point on Saturday, Jamario Bell did something to his foot, whether re-aggravated they think maybe a past injury or developed a new one, but he's getting surgery today at 2 and probably be out the next 10 to 12 weeks. So losing him for the season, or the majority of it, too bad, because he'd been doing a lot of nice things. He'd been working at our hog into the boundary over there, kind of like we'd use him with Carl Ressler, and then obviously Gabe Richardson, our new outside linebacker. So that's really the only thing from an injury standpoint that's been significant. We did move Jay Red out of the 105 just because his back just needs a little bit of time to really just rest, recover, and heal. Feel that if give him a couple weeks here to rest that thing, he should be able to jump in full flow. The great thing about our schedule, the way it lays out, is we obviously have 2 weeks coming up where we have no conflicts with summer school, and then we have 2 weeks before our first game, well, 10 days playing on a Thursday. So I feel comfortable about jumping him into that and being ready to play with that schedule. But other than that, stayed pretty clean. Got a couple guys, Carl Ressler, Dre Greenlaw, Josh Liddell, and Jalen Merrick, that we just got to watch the number of reps. They have little issues, nothing significant. Just we don't want to overtax them with this much time in fall camp. So those guys have all been handling it pretty well. I thought the first 3 days went extremely well. We stayed on course as far as our install plan, as far as offensive, defensive schemes, and really the practices that we had laid out going into today. Yesterday, by NCAA rule, we had to give them the entire day off, which was kind of a new wrinkle, that we can't even bring them over and meet with them or visit with them. The only thing they could come over for were academics and anybody that had a medical injury. So go back at it today. We'll be in half pack for our last day. Tomorrow I'll be in full pads. Really progressed this week nicely into good on good, some install of some opponent preparation as well towards the end of the week, and then have our first full scrimmage on Saturday. That should be probably one of the two most significant scrimmages of the fall. So we're excited about that, and with that, open it up for questions. Yeah, he actually jumped into it pretty good on Saturday and handled it well. We just don't want to overtax him. So he really, Saturday was unlimited, but during the course of the week to get him, and we'll see where he's at Thursday, Friday. You know, he hasn't been in the live competitive part of it, since last fall. So we'll see exactly where he is going into Friday.
Bret, with Bell and Jared going off the 105, who do you have?
Yeah, great question. So when we took Jared off, we brought in River Warnock, a guy that had been here before, and then we brought in basically a new kid to the program, and his name escaped me. Yeah, Pennington is a kid out of Chicago, preferred walk-on that has been with us all summer, and we're using him as an inside linebacker.
So Josh Paul's still not.
He's here. He's in school, but yeah, he's not in the 105.
Right on the OLS, I know you said that's where you guys are.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody on the 3D defense, any of those, I guess 36 or 33 spots?
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, again, it's kind of like preseason polls. I'd much rather read about at the end than on the front end. Don't have a lot of guys with really stats. That's always stat driven and maybe hype driven, and I refrain from the hype and don't have a lot of guys returning with stats. Even though the defensive backs probably have a lot of starts, there isn't a real stat guy back there. So I think our guys probably just use that as another motivating force.
And also, you don't really feel like you guys have really quote stars on the defense, but a lot of good players. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think, if you look at playmakers, obviously Sosa can make some plays. I think Bijan's made some plays. Linebacker Dre Greenlaw, when he's been in there, has been a guy that can make plays. I do think Randy Ramsey has big play capabilities, Ryan Pulley. So there's probably 5, 6 guys, and then the rest you just kind of build around it. But I think in this transition to a 3-4, guys playing new positions and new way of doing things, I think to be kind of in that discovery mode isn't a bad thing.
I think Dan was in here Saturday talking about George Jones. I think he said he's
Yeah.
4. What can you talk about him and making guys who you've already seen making plays?
Yeah, I would echo that. I would think of the wide receiver position, Jordan Jones. Of the returning guys, definitely has stood out. I think Deion Stewart as well. Deion's done some really nice things. T.J. Hammonds, I would bet, if you ask our defensive guys, the 2 guys that probably jump out and scare him the most are Jordan and T.J. when the ball's in his hands. I think those guys by far. David Williams, I'm telling you, has been a nice addition. He's a very, he's a willing soul. He's very coachable. The kids like him. It's easy to see, even though we've only had really 1 day in half-pack, that you can see the physicality, but he wasn't afraid to step up in there during blitz pickup. He's played a lot of football and very mature. I think tight end position, you got a bunch of guys, continued growth, C.J. O'Grady, Grayson Gunner, Will Gregg for that matter, and then, of course, the new guy, Jeremy Patton. And then, you know, really this week with putting the pads on, you should see some of our old linemen jump forward. But Kendrick Jackson, also at fullback, I thought made a nice step forward.
Hey, Frank was saying, the other day was we talked to him, that he thought he was probably going to scrimmage in the fall.
Mhm.
Not be held out like it was in spring.
Yeah, traditionally, what we've done in the, you know, running backs, tight ends, Hunter Henry, even past linemen, we've held them and restrained them in the spring, but in the fall we'll get them ready to play ball. And sorry about that. I think the plan would be on Saturday that he would take the majority of the first half of reps, and then we'll kind of see how the scrimmage lays out with the way with the number of planned reps that we have. But I think he'll be in the majority of them. Well, what we are doing today is just for today, and we'll kind of see where Carl's at the next couple of days. Randy Ramsey plays hog on certain down and distances into the boundary, and so we're going to put him over there and put Dwayne Eugene up with the ones and let those two guys who have the most experience, and then Hayden Henry, who's been fairly impressive through fall camp. We're going to get him running with the twos and see what he is, see what he's all about. I think the coaches, to say the least, are very impressed with his football IQ, his playmaking ability. He's very consistent, very knowledgeable, and then Derek Munson will get some reps out there as well.
Those guys moved around a lot. Tommy Chad the other day, he sounded like he was excited.
Ujamaro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, is that just kind of tough? Maybe this was finally going to be his time to do
Yeah, it is. You know, I called him early this morning, and I found out late yesterday afternoon and wasn't able to get him last night, and called him this morning because I know he's going to surgery, and his mom, Helen, is on her way down. I just, you know, the kid hasn't had an easy road, whether he's brought it down himself or you know, switching positions from defense to offense, now back, and he was really flourishing. And then I just say, hey, don't let this one get you. You know, you've been battling back from some setbacks, and I know 10 to 12 weeks can sound daunting, but let's get your grades on track. He just had the best semester academically he's ever had. You're exactly right. There's a lot of things that were very positive, but I think you're defined more by your moments of adversity, and this is one of them. So I'm excited. My heart goes out to him. He's a likable kid. The guys really enjoy him. You know, he's got some fun traits to him. So I don't think this will be the end of him.
Bret, you kind of mentioned that he might have had some previous things. So what
Yeah, just when they first started coming, I don't know, you know, obviously I'm not the doctor, but I do know that the very first couple things they weren't able to diagnose for sure what was going on until they got over and got with a certain machine over in the hospital and got a certain read, and they saw there was a fracture that needed to be repaired and addressed today.
Kevin Richardson, is there any thought of petitioning for another year?
There is, Nate, but you can't. I mean, I'd love to have him for another year, but the way the NCAA is pretty clear about this. So you get 1 year as a red shirt, right? So 1 year that if you're medically unable to perform, you get that. When you free willingly redshirt as a freshman, you know, so K. Rich was an underdeveloped walk-on corner who really was kind of just finding his way. We redshirted him automatically his first year, so that begins his window of 4 years, all right? When you're within that 4-year window, if you miss a year due to medical reasons, there's really not much you can do about it. But if you miss 2 years, now you're going to have a leg to stand on. That's a bad phrase. You'd have something to make cause. He's only missed 1 year due to medical last year, so really can't do anything unless something would happen in the future, and we don't want it to. Cody had multiple years affected by, absolutely. And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, was not Cody played as a true freshman, did he not? You guys can tell me that. I think Cody played, so he never. The biggest difference is that qualifying year of whether you redshirt because of a medical condition or as a freshman you can redshirt just because we redshirt you, not independent of medical status. You just need a year of growth.
Where are you guys at with punter and kicker and
Yeah, I think, you know, two things. First, at kicker, we're really opening up this week. We had not even performed until Saturday. in front of the whole team as kickers. So, Cole finished the spring very well, did not start off well on Saturday, kind of had an adjustment period over there together, but brought in two other guys. Connor Limpert obviously will be battling out. He's a lefty, so it's an added dimension. And then Mazza is a walk-on kicker as well. So those guys battled it out. I think Limpert, just from early being, from a kickoff standpoint, continued to strengthen his leg. Has looked really good. And then Blake Johnson, to me, has been a surprise guy. Just his consistency, he really has been hitting the ball pretty well during punt periods, and that's the only segment we've worked until today. Today we put in kickoff coverage. Tomorrow we put in KOR, and then Thursday we put in PBR.
Hey, Bret, the other day I was talking to a coach, kind of off the subject a little bit, told me that sometimes during the spring or fall it can be stressful for him to have players choose team captains because sometimes they pick guys who are popular and best leaders. Have you ever had a situation like that and you had to overrule?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've never ever allowed captains to be picked until the fall. So during my tenure here with you here at Arkansas, and even before that when I was at Wisco, I always picked our captains 2 weeks out from the first game for two reasons. First, to avoid a little bit of what you're saying, and plus I wanted to have the input of the freshman class and the leadership, because to me sometimes new eyes are the best eyes. They literally can tell who really truly does lead, who kind of has a voice. They're not necessarily going with the most popular, which as you get older, I think it's easy to start voting for your buddy, or so that happened. So what I did last year is I voted on him at the end of spring ball, if you remember, because I really felt going into the summer, we have a lot of really good kids who say all the right things, do all the right things. We're not great communicators, so I really wanted to force the hand of our leadership committee. So we voted on captains, and the four, I have a little group message, going on my phone that I was in constant dialogue, and to me we got four great ones. Frank represents the O-line, D-line pretty good. He's a blue collar. Anything I say, he does. He's really a captain without restraint. I mean, he thinks like a coach would want you to think 24/7. K. Rich is very intelligent, has the walk-on perspective, which I think is always great. So he's always into the development. He spoke in front of the team the other night, and K. Rich said there, if you ever are in doubt of what to do, just listen, and you can be told what to do, and it'll be. Basically just saying listen to what's going on, and good things will happen to you. Austin Allen's been around it forever, so his voice is really, really good, very calm, but also is not afraid to get after guys pretty good. And then, Santos, with an underclassman point of view, a guy that's had some trials and tribulations, I think he's really a refocused guy right now, so he's got this newness to him that those four guys really have been a great voice for us all summer, and I wouldn't trade it in right now for the world.
Jared kind of dealing with his back deal. Are you looking at other punt returners, or maybe you don't want him to return punts anyway?
J-Red, I would say if anything we miss in front of the line of scrimmage right now, I think the punt returner, a guy that's looked really good is Andre Tolliver. I think a couple of freshmen, you can kind of gauge what kind of athleticism you recruit by that first day when you ask punt returner, kick returners to go back there, because those aren't normal actions. It's a very, I've had a lot of really good running backs who can't return kicks. I've had a lot of good wide receivers or DBs that can't return kicks. It's a different type of athleticism, hand-eye ball coordination. So a couple of those freshmen are pretty impressive. I think Davion Warren, Chase Hammond as a kick returner, Jordan Jones as a kick returner, even though we've seen him for a year. Gary Cross seems to be very comfortable back there. So there's a host of guys I think will be pretty special.
So you think it probably won't be Jared?
I would say this: if Jared was cleared and ready to go, the last position I'd put him on right now of the positions he played would be at punt returner. I'd want to get him in the line of scrimmage first.
Who would you compare to David Williams?
Who would I compare David Williams to? Nobody jumps out to me just because he's a big back, but he also is very agile. He has a nice slide cut. I was very impressed with his overall physicality in that first. He stepped up in there, and we had a pretty aggressive blitz period, and he stepped up in there and bowed some guys up, and his learning. I think that's probably been the thing that Dan Enos, Coach Mitchell, the offensive coaches in general, just said that his adaptive, because he really didn't come from a system like ours. You know what I mean? It's not like he's coming from a pro-style system at South Carolina with either Coach Spurrier or Coach Muschamp. he's kind of doing this all on free learning, and he hasn't missed a beat. And I think our kids are really very, very impressed with his overall demeanor, especially Devois. I ain't nobody doing a better job of coaching him up and being around him. Devois Whaley, from when I brought him on his recruiting visits, you see him at meals, you see him walk around the locker room. Those two are hip on hip. They're really good.
Does the way he's played, talk about David, make things a little easier to put Devois through more reps this fall?
You mean just like, scrimmage situation or something? I think I get the question, but I don't think it would affect how we get him prepared. I think Devois, once you've been a ball carrier in this league that's proven you can handle ball security, that you can handle, the physicality of this league, I think you just got to get him enough reps to make sure that's in place and let him run. Because, running backs, it is about staying fresh. I think that's why a lot of times, in our system, it's not just two backs. We use three. So like right now to have Devois with his skill set, I think David is a very, very comparable skill set as well. And then to throw, Chase would probably be that third guy right now, and he's a complete different changeup than those other two backs. So those three guys all bring kind of a different bag of tricks.
Devois had to step up into a leadership position maybe a little bit earlier than he thought he would have to. How's he been handling?
Devois is very intelligent. Ever since I've been recruiting him. Very focused, very mature. His family put a lot on him, and he handles it very, very well. And I think because of the way that he was thrust into the spotlight, I think we're very all thankful that although it wasn't great timing for a situation like that at any point, it came at a good time. So he had the entire summer to kind of digest that he's going to be the guy. And then I was very impressed, as I just referenced, just his overall demeanor and approach to the whole David Williams thing. I think a lot of guys from the outside world might think that's not going to be the case, and he open-armed grabbed. I think because he realizes how important it is to have a second accountable back to play in the SEC to make the run that we got to make.
There's that progress at running back. Do you feel T.J. Hammonds is still more receiver?
Well, but he is. Yeah. So T.J. will play wide receiver, and right now is listed as a one wide receiver. So. Our one wide receivers right now are Deion Stewart and T.J. on one side, and on the other side would be Jordan Jones, and then about 3 or 4 other guys that are in the mix. But T.J. does some nice things. He's good with the ball in his hands. He has played running back, and we'll continue to flip him in there a couple times throughout the course of the day during practice, and of course during game-like scenarios.
It seemed like you kind of issued a challenge to the older receivers the other day when you said guys who've been here 3 months, maybe outdoing guys who've been here 3 years. Do you think those guys, read what you said?
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm amazed always what our guys do read or don't read, but it wasn't anything more than I'm just being honest with you guys. It wasn't any unintended circumstances, but I do think Deion Stewart and Jordan Jones have played really, really well. I've seen them continue to jump, and Michael Petway hasn't done anything bad or good. I want him to take a step forward. You just like those guys that are in their third year. To me, a defining moment as a coach is when you're past the halfway mark, right? So you're in your third fall, which means you're on the other side. You're past hump day, right? So you're in that position whether you need to start getting going or someone needs to come on and get going in place of you. So I think those guys, but there's not many of them. You're just talking about Jordan, Michael, and Deion, and they all have made strides. I think they're all playing better football than they ever played. I just think Deion and Jordan took some big steps. Now, Jordan, he can catch a long ball, he can run. Our guys are all definitely afraid of his speed, but he needs to play all the other things too. He needs to be a good run blocker. He needs to be great on some plays that maybe doesn't involve just running down the field.
3, 4 translation, where do you think you guys are, and is it what you want?
Yeah, so now it's fun. Now we start bringing some pressures. On Saturday we added pressures from really every angle, strong, weak, blitz, boundary, and field. Brought them up the middle. So now guys can start having some fun, and those things lead to other reactions both from our defense and from offense. And what I think is nice is you got some youthful content there with our players. You know, you look at a guy like Scooter Harris, who's your Mike Backer, who's got a lot of energy. Sosa, you know, he's a sophomore, a pretty good player with a lot of energy, and they rejuvenate those guys. Briston Guidry, T.J. Smith, some guys that are really, I tell you, inside Bijan Jackson, and then I have, who's my old lineman? Dylan Hayes. Dylan brings a lot of energy there. Jonathan Marshall, we're playing him at defensive end. He looks really, really good. You get a guy like D. Walk who just instinctively, when you put him out there on the field, he stands out from the others just because he loves the game. He's very instinctive. He's very explosive. I'm excited to see this not just the true freshman group, but the redshirt freshman group that didn't get a lot of reps last year, you know, make an impact in the game. So it's fun. And I tell you, those young DBs, Chevin Callaway, Cameron Curl, Jordan Curtis, a couple other guys that just are pretty impressive athletes and look good, you know. And our senior, I was with my seniors, and we were talking about the very first practice. So it was their first day as a college football player, you know. So it was the last time it was going to be their first day of fall camp, and I just blatantly said, to these freshman guys, what's one thing that jumps out to you? Because I was hoping they were. I'm glad what they said. I was getting more towards the entire freshman class through summer one got only A's and B's. Not one kid got a C, a D, or an F, and that's not very common. That's a mature group of freshmen. Usually have one guy that can't figure out how to log onto his computer, you know. And so that was what I was looking at. But they all all together at once said they're fast, and that jumped out to them. I think it jumped out to us. Special teams, being able to play skill positions maybe a little earlier than we normally do around here. They're very gifted athletically, and that's fun to see them bring it out.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.